All right, so let's go over chapter 6, okay? Respiration and fermentation. Okay. So sometimes animals, okay, need food and oxygen. I shouldn't really say organisms. Animals need food and oxygen. Okay, all right. Animal cells use the energy in food to make ATP, right? We've been over this. Okay, and this is ATP. Okay, the process in which we take energy from food is called cellular respiration. Okay, so I'm taking glucose, I'm breaking the bonds of glucose, and whenever we break bonds, we release some of the energy, and that energy is used to make ATP. Okay, ATP is the form of energy that all cells use. Okay, cells use ATP to do work. Okay, power chemical reactions, etc., etc. Okay, so aerobic cellular respiration is a series of chemical reactions. Okay, so this is a chemical reaction. So you'll notice it's literally the exact opposite of photosynthesis. I'm taking sugar, I'm adding oxygen to it this time, and I'm producing CO2 and H2O and ATP. Okay, this is also why we need to breathe air. Okay, we inhale oxygen. Okay, and we use it to break down sugar into CO2 and water. And that process, okay, if you don't have oxygen, then you can't do this, then you die. Okay. Question number 1. Okay. Do plants carry out cellular respiration? And the answer is yes. Like all those things, they require ATP to power their cells. Okay. All right. So how are cellular respiration and photosynthesis related to breathing? Right. So cellular respiration. So cellular respiration and photosynthesis. Cellular respiration, you need the oxygen, right? Okay. So the stuff you breathe out, the CO2, is actually used by plants, right, for photosynthesis. Okay. Okay. Cellular respiration includes 3 main pathways. Okay. Glycolysis, the Krebs cycle, or the citric acid cycle, and finally the electron transfer chain. Okay. In glycolysis, glucose is split in half, forming pyruvate. Okay, so let's look at glycolysis. Okay, so again, the most important things I want you guys to do is the big steps that are in each process, right? So, okay, so here's the overall respiration pathway. Okay, the Krebs cycle, you continue to oxidize the sugar. So you take sugar, you oxidize it a little bit, you turn it to pyruvate. Some of that energy is converted to ATP. Some of the energy is converted to high energy electrons, so NADH. Okay, in the Krebs cycle, you oxidize sugar completely. And when you oxidize sugar completely, it turns into CO2. Okay, and more energy is transferred to electrons. Okay. All right. In the electron transport chain, energy from the electrons is used to form ATP, and oxygen is the final electron acceptor. Okay. That's a key. That's a key concept. Okay, oxygen is the final electron receptor. It is what like basically the reason why we breathe in oxygen is so down the street, down the line, oxygen always ends up with the electrons, and that turns it into water. And that's we need the electrons to go somewhere. If the electrons don't go somewhere onto oxygen, we get screwed and we get stuck with them, and that kills us. Okay. Okay. So the overall equation. So the overall pathways of um, aerobic respiration release energy by oxidizing glucose and reducing oxygen. Okay, oxygen is strongly attracted to electrons, therefore the energy reaction is downhill and releases a lot of energy. Okay, cellular respiration occurs in small steps. Okay, for each step, I want you to know where it takes place and the ins and outs of each step. Okay, so cellular respiration releases glucose. Okay, one bond at a time in a series of many steps. Okay, like if all the energy was released at once, if you burn sugar, like literally burn it and release it all at once, it would be too overwhelming. It wouldn't be useful. Okay, the small steps allow you to power one little step at a time, release one ATP, so you can gather as much ATP as possible. Okay. Okay. One, cellular respiration taking place. So glycolysis always occurs in the cytosol. Okay. So any cell that has cytosol can undergo glycolysis. Okay. In prokaryotes, don't worry about prokaryotes, worry about eukaryotes. Okay, because that's what most of the thing is. Okay. Eukaryotic cells contain mitochondria. Okay. Eukaryotic cells have mitochondria. The purpose of mitochondria is they actually do this process where they do the Krebs cycle and electron transport chain. Okay, that's so the mitochondria are the powerhouse of the cell, right? That's what that means. They do the Krebs cycle and electron transport chain. Without the mitochondria, they only undergo the glycolysis. Okay, so in your red blood cells, for example, they only undergo glycolysis because they don't really have mitochondria. Okay. Okay. Aerobic cellular respiration taps much of the potential stored in glucose. Okay. With the electron transport chain and the Krebs cycle, they are the key ATP generating processes. Okay. They're not the only ATP generating process, but they are by far the biggest ones. And I'll explain why that's so important in a couple of slides. Okay. All right. First, glycolysis. Okay. All cells need to carry out glycolysis, all of which occurs in the cytosol. That's why glycolysis is the more ancient of the pathways. Okay, so all cells undergo glycolysis. Okay, none of the steps in glycolysis require oxygen. Okay, so cells in glycolysis is both oxygen rich and oxygen free environments can undergo glycolysis. Okay, so make sure you're aware of the net inputs and net outputs of glycolysis. So net inputs, okay, glucose, 2 NAD plus, 2 ADP. Okay, the net output, I take one glucose and cut it in half. That little 3-carbon molecule, okay, it's called pyruvate. Okay, the NAD turns into NADH, and the ADP turns into ATP. Okay, so I generate two NADHs out of it and 2 ATPs out of it. Okay, that little bit of now I have a little bit of energy. Okay, where is the mitochondrial matrix? It is inside membrane. Okay. Okay. So glycolysis. Okay. Splits glucose in half. Okay. That's what glycolysis literally means. Okay. It's split into three carbon molecules of pyruvate. If you read other biology books, you also hear it called pyruvic acid. They mean the same thing. Okay. All right. So in glycolysis, I gain two molecules of ATP. Okay. And I pick up two electrons NADH. I make two molecules of NADH. Remember, reduction is gain of energy. Okay. So this molecule is going to be more energetic, and we'll use this later on. Okay. In between glycolysis and Krebs cycle, I have this one little step called the transition step. Okay. In the transition step, I convert pyruvate to two molecules of acetyl-CoA. Okay. I pick up one NADH and I release, I pick up two NADHs and I release two molecules of CO2. Okay. All right. The Krebs cycle oxidizes the acetyl-CoA, so breaks down the acetyl-CoA completely into carbon dioxide. So 4 carbon dioxide is output. Okay. I generate 2 ATP again. So I generate a little bit of ATP, but the most important thing is actually right here. I generate a whole bunch of NADH and FADH2s. Okay, I generate 6 NADHs, 2 FADH2s. Okay, I also use the electron transport chain. So now I have a whole bunch of NADHs and FADH2s. Okay, in my next recording, I'll go over exactly how many. Okay. All right. So all these electrons are unloaded onto the electron transport chain. So here is the electron transport chain. Okay. We'll pass all these on. Okay. And at 3 stages, 1, 2, all right, run them out. 1, 2, 3 stages for the NADH, 1 hydrogen is moved into here. And when 1 hydrogen moves into here, 1 hydrogen moves out through this pathway, through this hole. This hole makes 1 ATP. Okay. All right. Oxygen accepts the depleted electrons. Okay. So the electrons are passed along the electron transport chain, and then the final place they go is oxygen, which turns it into water. Okay. All right. So glucose carbon atoms, they're all eventually released as CO2. Okay. So the glucose is completely oxidized into CO2. Okay, what happens to cellular respiration? The cells will be prevented from breathing. Well, you can't breathe, you can't get oxygen. You can't get oxygen, you can't undergo cellular respiration. Okay, because the electron transport chain needs oxygen. Okay, the Krebs cycle needs oxygen. Everything in the mitochondria needs oxygen. You still can do glycolysis for a little bit of energy, but not enough to survive for long periods of time. Okay? Okay, so how do FADH and FADH2 power ATP formation? Okay, these are the high energy electrons that get dumped into the electron transport chain. And the electron transport chain produces a whole bunch of hydrogens, which get pumped across, okay, and made into ATP. So the grand total, if I add all these up, okay, the conversion rates for 1 FADH is 3 ATP, 1 FADH 2 ATP, so I can generate a huge amount of ATP in the electron transport chain. So this is the reason why the electron transport chain is important. Okay. Okay. So two glucose molecules enter glycolysis by the end of cellular respiration, and that product will be water molecules. Okay. Oh, okay. That's not right. Okay. So um, actually, I'll pick this up in part 2. All right. So here. Recording.